Chapter 1. In the beginning, there was rap. This is the D.G.P story. The story of Divine G Prophet. As I stated in my memoir, Greg is Dead. Once I discovered the Bible is the truth, I wanted to share this newly founded knowledge with the world, my world. So I was meditating on that one day, driving down Condon Way, and I thought to myself, rap is powerful. If somebody rapped the Bible about Jesus, that could be life-changing. So I prayed in the name of Jesus to become a rapper according to the scriptures, John 16:23. Jesus said in that scripture, "Whatever you ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you." I had been already asking, and I had been receiving. So I knew that this would be no different. So after my prayer, I got a pen and a pad. I told myself I was going to write 100 raps. That was my mission. So I got to it. One day, my homie Ian wanted to go to Tracy to see our friend Bear. So his brother drove us to the valley. On the way there, I tried to write my first rap. They probably thought, what is he doing? At that time, most people that we knew were not into writing raps or making music in general. The only people that I knew who kind of dabbled in rapping were Earl, who we call Twink, and Okie, his comrade. They did it lightweight and had a group called the Dog Pound. This was before the other mainstream group, the Dog Pound Gangsters, had come out. This was probably around 1993, 1994. The only other person I knew who was known for rapping was Al, who later became known as Al Beezy and Al Husky. He used to rap at parties in the early 1990s, but nobody was really recording, putting them on tape. Now I must add that back in the early hip-hop days, I had a friend named Damon, and we used to rap. We had a group called Special Requests. He was Romeo, and I was Finesse. We used to rap like Run DMC. We did that in the 8th grade, which was probably around 1985. But it was just for fun, because that was the culture back then. Now, I'm on a mission because of finding out the Bible is the truth. It was changing my life. And I knew how powerful rap was. It had changed the whole community and was changing the world. Back then, rap was more conscious. People actually were saying something in their raps. Groups like Public Enemy, KRS-One, Ice Cube, and even Too Short were saying positive things in their lyrics. We all listened and knew all the words. So I wrote that rap that day on the way to Bear's house. That was the start of G Prophet's rap mission. I wasn't even named Divine G Prophet yet. I believe this was late 1994. I always say 1995 is when I began to write, though, because in 95, everything seemed to take off. I had that fire. I was on a mission once I got my feet wet. I really began to go after that 100 rap milestone. So every chance I got or everywhere I went, I would take a pen and a pad and write. Most of my raps came from watching church shows, Christian TV, ministers preaching the word. I would hear something from them, then I would write a rap about it. Around this time, which was around 1995, I hooked up with Ian because he had a Casio keyboard and we would have studio time. I would write and he would play the keys. One morning, it was probably like 2 a.m. I went to his house and we watched a church show. It was Creflo Dollar. After the program, I wrote 2 raps and we decided to record them. So we did and made a tape. Later that day, we took the tape to everyone's house on the block. First, we went to Lance's house, then to Twink's house, then to Jose's. It's where everybody kicked it, you know what I'm saying? Like Chongo and Al and them. Everyone heard the tape and they was juiced. So much so everyone started rapping. We really lit the spark in our neighborhood. Chapter 2. It's studio time. After that, Ian, who we later started calling Ski Bomb, built a recording studio in his backyard, which we called the Shack. For a while, we all would go in the Shack to record or just practice. It became a real movement until one day Ski Bomb decided to tear it down. Not sure why, but no more Shack. Now, without a place to record, I was a little bummed. But I continued to write because I had that fire in me. I was on a mission. My name was G.Prophet. God told me to prophet, which means to advance. So I've been on the come up ever since. The message of God is not only a message of how to get to heaven, it also includes having heaven on earth, the kingdom, ruling and reigning in this life, taking dominion, living as a king and a priest. So it's a message of prosperity, being whole, nothing missing, nothing broken, which includes having no lack in financial areas of your life. So I would also write raps about that as well, being blessed to be a blessing to others. One day after the Shack had closed, maybe around the end of 1995, I was walking down Mission View Drive in the hood with my bass guitar, and I seen a brother from the neighborhood named Jason. He lived right around the corner from me. He was like, "You do music?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Come to my house. I do music too." I was like, "Word, bet." So we started recording on his karaoke machine in his garage in this little room he had. I had bought Ian's TR-505 drum machine, and I had that bass guitar. We was in the groove. I think I bought Ian's Casio keyboard as well because Ian had upgraded to a Boss DR5. Jason was the first person to put me up on doing ad-libs, which made the recordings a lot better. We had many sessions in that garage. As time went on, I started to just freestyle raps because I was being attacked by the devil. God showed me that as a result, the one thing I stopped doing was my music. The raps were having an impact, small, but I was reaching people, getting them interested in the things of God in my little world. I even wrote a rap one time and let a youngster dude named Sydney listen to it. And after he heard it, all he wanted to do was read the Bible. As a response to the devil's attacks and becoming aware of what was going on, I started to make beats and straight freestyle. Around this time, I had ended up with Ian's DR5. So I would make a beat and just bust off the dome. This was probably the end of 1996. Also, Jason and I were still rapping together, and we put some tapes together called Flames of Fire. Ian had another keyboard, and at this time, he was still making beats, tight beats. So I was getting tracks from him, and me and Jason would freestyle over them. We even did some with some other rappers who had got known, Fediachi and Skits. Real talent. Another cat who came through was Player Rich. He also became a known rapper. He and Lance had teamed up and were doing shows and stuff. One day, we went to Skit's pad because he had some equipment too at that time. It was Jason, Skits, and their homie Vlad. Rest in peace. We made a cold freestyle joint, one that became a straight hood classic, as Skit's younger brother Reese sat and watched on his bunk bed in amazement. R.I.P. Big Reese. We was getting better the more we practiced, which was a lot. After studio time at Jason's house was studio time at Terry's house, who called himself T-Law. I used to take all my equipment to his house. Beat machines, guitar, keyboard, speakers, and stereo. It was a task, but I had to make it happen. We used to have jam sessions while all his neighbors sat back and listened. This was around 1997 because I had a car by this time. Before that, I didn't. But in 97, I started having my money again. If you read or listened to the memoir Greg is Dead, you would know I struggled with drug addiction. Back then, I didn't have anything. I started coming back up in life once I got a hold of the Word of God, specifically what Jesus Christ taught. Also on giving tithes, which is the first 10% of an increase to God, and also offerings, which come from your own money, the 90% left. I began to give those to God's ministries on the earth, to people he had called to do his will, and began to prosper. Now we are doing jam sessions at T's, and one session had got real heated. We made this song I named called Pulled It. At this time, I'm making beats on the DR5, and I would make a beat in like 5 minutes. We would press play and record. Terry had a son named Isaiah. He was just a baby, and you could hear him in the background. Now he makes his own music. Funny how life is. We continued to jam in them sessions, but in 98, I got a video camera and we started recording footage, trying to make videos. I pieced up some clips and called it Live in the Mine, which stands for Fremont. That was 1998 through 1999. Chapter 3, The Chocolate Factory. When 2000 hit, I ended up living in an RV, which I call the Chocolate Factory. During this time, I went on the tear. All I did was pray and make music, because it was a very hard time in my life. Between 2000 and 2002, anyone who was into rapping would come to the factory and we would record. At this time, I was considered the beat man. Most rappers at that time didn't make beats, but I was pushing them out all day long. If we needed something new, it only took 5 minutes to make one. So rappers would come over to practice. And most of these people became real big local rappers, collaborating with some real factors in the game, doing shows and tours. D.G.P was getting known. By this time, I had already added the Divine to the name. One night I was in the lab going through a tough season, and I make this beat and just start busting. Boost laced, riding, rolling straight high siding. Boost Lace was born. That song became a hit. Everywhere I would go, I would play that song. People were on it, and it was a freestyle. When 2003 hit, I stopped making beats and started to rap over other people's beats. Like famous rappers, kind of like when Ice Cube made that song Jackin' for Beats. I just had a desire to rap over other people's tracks. So that's what I did. I could rap over a person's beat and turn it into my own song. In 2005, I spit the coldest freestyle I ever spit called In the Beast. To this day, that's the coldest flow. It definitely was a moment in time to be remembered. Chapter 4, CDs. Now by 2005, I'm living in San Leandro, and there was a big rap culture up there. These were the days when you can make your own CDs and push them on the street or put them in stores. A lot of rappers were selling CDs in front of Rasputins. I had made a freestyle album called G.O.D. Music, Live and Uncut, and put it in Rasputins through Saeed, whose rap name was Balance. If you wanted your music in the store, you had to go through him. I wasn't really tripping off making money though, so I gave a lot of my music away. But it was cool seeing the CDs in the store. They also had a promo table. So what I enjoyed was making CDs and putting them on the table. I gave a lot of CDs away to the point other rappers who were up there selling CDs like famous rapper King George took notice. He was like, man, you giving a lot of CDs away. Because he would see the people walking out with my CD in their hand as he approached them to sell his. Those are some good times for rap. People were pushing heavy on the street, selling tens of thousands of CDs, all independent, at $5 to $10 a pop. You do the math. In around 2009, though, I got a desire to write a song. It had been around 12 years since my last one that I wrote. I got a track from Jason, the instrumental to Tupac's song So Many Tears, and I called it It's All About Salvation. I wrote this rap one day at T's crib in Oakland, and it became a hit, rapping about Jesus Christ and how to get to heaven. Once I wrote it, I needed to record it. I was scheduled to go to Jason's house, but I fell asleep. While I was sleeping, I had the wildest dream I ever had in my life. Chapter 5. It's That Dream. I'm sleeping in an RV I had when all of a sudden I see this little green ball. It came from outer space, and it came right into the vehicle and just sat in the air pulsating. Then the little green ball started to grow in size. As it grew, it started to pull me with great force. I tried to hold on to stuff, but I couldn't. And it just pulled me through the RV into outer space. The next thing you knew, I'm sitting on this craft, like an airplane or something. I'm like a little child just sitting there. I didn't see anyone. Nobody said anything. But I could see what looked like cities lit up because it was dark. Then we started to pull into this place where I saw this building, and sitting behind the desk was my pastor, Dick Burnell. Then I landed on my feet. It seemed like I was in a big hotel or resort, and people were walking around. Everyone was wearing white. Then I heard this announcement: get ready for the grand reunion. Then I turned around and I saw these golden elevators. From there, now I'm in a totally different place, and I see Jason and this other rapper we know named Raphael walking in this alley. Then I woke up. I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was dead. But when I woke up, I knew I had to record that song. So I called Jason and said, hey, I'm ready. He said, come through. I couldn't let this song go, and I was trying to perfect it. So I kept trying to record different versions of it. So next I tried to record at Al Beezy's because he had a studio equipment by this time. But he told me he didn't know how to mix and master. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't too hip on the production side of making songs. I would just press record. I was rough, rugged, and raw, and still am. After Al Beezy's, I tried to go to a real studio, so I went to Redwall in Fremont and had it mixed by John Cheatham, who became a big-time engineer in LA. The Salvation song, I just couldn't let it go. But maybe it was because I had that dream. But I felt like all the songs I had made up until that point led me to make the Salvation song, because that song pretty much sums the gospel up in rap form. Everything else was just like practice. And to this day, it is my most successful song, getting rotation globally. I pushed that song for the next 7 years. Chapter 6, Bustin' Back. In 2016, I decided to write an album. So I got some beats that Jason had made, and I chose 10. I used to start work at 12 a.m., so I wrote to those beats from midnight to like noon that morning nonstop. I wrote 10 songs all back to back. It was wild. I was on fire. The fire was still burning. And it was quite an experience, especially after not having written any rhymes for like 7 years. It was like I never stopped. Actually, I got better. Now, around this time, social media has a big influence on society. So I began to make short visuals to post on my Instagram page. And they were actually getting some attention of some famous rappers, believe it or not. I even had Kool Herc and artists like Warren G liking my posts. Social media helped to network with people from all over the world. The only networking I had done over my rap career was with the rapper MC Hammer, because he used to live in Fremont before he had to sell his mansion in the hills, but his church was in Fremont, so we would catch him around town. When I first started making tapes, I had gave him one when we saw him at Mountain Mike's Pizza. He said he had a long drive home, so he was going to listen to it. The next time I seen him, he was driving a drop Rolls Royce down the street. I shout, "Hammer, did you listen to my tape?" He was like, "What tape?" I said, "The one I gave you at Mountain Mike's." He said, "Yeah, it was straight." That's how we networked before the web. Buzz Back actually did pretty well out of most of the music I put on the internet, besides Salvation. Buzz Back has the most streams out of all the albums. Strictly G.O.D mode, that's how I was doing it. G.O.D meaning Gaming No Devils. That's always been my focus, because the devil is the real enemy of God's creation from the days of Genesis till this day. G.O.D music consists of many alter egos: KO Status, OTL, which means of the Lord, and the Goalie, as well as Ninja Man. After Bust Back, I began to write a lot of music, like making 14 songs and videos a year since like 2018, which increased my catalog. It was like after making Bust Back and using sites like YouTube and Instagram, a D.G.P. rebirth took place, because now you can really reach a lot of people. At first, when I started using sites like Facebook and Instagram to push my music, I was reaching close to like 100,000 people per campaign. But somehow they stopped all that and the numbers decreased. In my opinion, I got shadow banned. The devil's way of fighting back. He doesn't want this message reaching people around the world. We know. Chapter 7, The Evolution. Around this time, I started to turn my focus on the world around me. For a long time, my focus was primarily on Jesus, His Word, and His will, which is to share the good news of His gospel, which I still do, but since I have been doing research on social and political issues, I felt the need to address them as well. D.G.P. began to write raps about these topics, like about corruption, the last days, homelessness, the government, and lawlessness. A new avenue had emerged. I began to capture what was going on in the world, the moment in time, sort of like what was going on in the 1960s and 70s with artists like Bob Dylan, Marvin Gaye and Bob Marley, to name a few. I have made a lot of raps like this. Some of these raps have caught the attention of some Bay Area legends, like Too Short and JT the Bigger Figure, which are some of my favorite rappers. I even made a song to one of Prozac's beats, who used to be called C-Funk. With the help of social media, my music has gone a lot further and reached more people. I guess you could say it's a gift and a curse. Now it's June 3rd, 2024, with 30 years in the game. I feel another urge to evolve. So I'm going to start making poetry, a different lane. I can't say that I won't write another rap, because every time I have said that, then made another song, it turned out to be one of my best songs. Then I would say, just imagine if I would have stopped. I would have never got this song done. Kind of scary when I think about it. I don't think the well is dry yet. And actually, I have turned into a songwriter. I've written a few songs, worship and love songs. So there is still water in the well. And I really enjoy writing songs. Maybe one day I will find someone to sing them for me. As of now, I'm going to try my hand at poetry. Another arrow, another bullet in the gun to keep the devil on the run.